Hello guys, my name is Lena Marin from iconicpatterns.com, and in today's tutorial I would like to explain how to adjust a Rachel blouse pattern to fit full bust or small bust without adding additional bust darts. Rachel blouse has neck pleats instead of the bust dart, so that might look as a very difficult pattern to adjust, but in actual fact it is quite easy. So I will show you how to do that step by step, and you will see that there's really nothing very difficult there. So this is the iconic Rachel blouse sewing pattern, and this is what we're going to adjust to fit full or small bust. The Rachel blouse is drafted to fit a B-cup bust, so if you are larger or smaller you will find this tutorial quite useful. So first of all we have to find a bust point. Each one of us have bust point in a slightly different spot, so the easiest thing to do is to just put pattern towards your body and mark the bust point on the pattern. So now we've done that, and the next thing I'm going to do is draw a circle around the bust point. Put the needle in the bust point and draw a circle around it. So this is approximately how large the bust area is supposed to be. So we call that BP, bust point. Next thing I'm going to do is to draw a horizontal line from the center of the blouse to the bust point, and another one vertical, also from the bust point all the way to the bottom of the blouse, like that. Alright, I'm going to call this part A, this part B. Next thing I'm going to do is to measure the center of each pleat and join that center with a point on this arc, which I'm going to mark just to make sure that our fullness is distributed evenly, so we don't end up with a point at our bust. Okay, so I'm joining the center of the pleat with the point on this arc, and same for this one, and another one here, so we can distribute the fullness evenly. Then I join the point on the arc to the bust point, like that. Okay, so now we need to figure out how large our full adjustment or small adjustment will be. Obviously when you do muslin and you try it on and you see that you could slash at the bust point vertically and horizontally and add a certain amount to make sure that your blouse fits. So if, say, in general you're missing, say, 1 inch and you need 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters across the bust, you divide that between the two parts and add evenly to fit your both breasts. So the third and final part, we join bust point with about middle with the middle of the arm side, like this. Okay, so this part here, this part I'll call C as well. So there's A, B and C. Now we begin our adjustment. Let's say we need to add say 2 centimeters at the bust, so 1 centimeter per half. First of all, what we need to do is cut the pattern along the vertical line to the bust point and along this horizontal line and basically cut out a rectangle. Then we cut from the bust point to the arm side, but not through the arm side, so you have to leave a bit of a paper there so it stays. And finally, we need to cut through our pleats to the arc and then into the bust point, but not through. So all three can be distributed evenly. Okay. And the third one. It might look a little bit drastic, but really there's nothing really complicated in this adjustment. Okay, so we've done this preparation. What we have now is a blouse that's slightly cut up, and here are all the parts. The part A, B, C, and we begin. Okay, so now we have the blouse front cut up and we are ready to do our full bust adjustment. So let's say you figured out that you need to add 1 centimeter horizontally and 1 centimeter vertically. What we do next is we separate these two parts here, making sure that the grain is strictly vertical. And we make sure that the distance between here is 1 centimeter, between A and B is 1 centimeter, exactly what you need to add. Exactly what you need to add to fit your bust. Next thing we have to do is make sure that our front is the one unbroken line. So we put a ruler here. Well, in this case I'm not using any paper underneath, but you would want to put a piece of paper underneath and sellotape the parts to obviously to create a new pattern piece. What you do next is you move this part here to make sure that the line here is unbroken. The distance between the part A and C should equal the amount you want to add vertically. So in our case 1 centimeter, and you add it here and you secure that part. In my case this pattern weights, but in yours it could be sellotape. You make sure that this all lines up perfectly. All your grain lines are supposed to be immaculately vertical. Okay, so in some cases you will need to add quite a lot, and say it will be twice as much. And when you put your front like this, you sort of cannot do it without distorting the pattern. You can't level it out. So what you do, you will separate the part C, you add as much as you want, but make sure these 2 points are still on the same level. You straighten it all out, make sure there's no folds anywhere on your pattern, and then you have your spread pattern. Next thing you have to do is to make sure that your pleats are, the fullness is spread evenly between your pleats. So what you do is just separate these pleats like this, and then sellotape them and hold them in place, and this will be your adjusted pattern. In the end you will end up with a pattern that's going to be longer by this amount here, it's going to be wider by this amount there, and all this fullness is going to be spread evenly between the pleats, so you'll get no bust out. And to do a small bust adjustment is quite similar as well. What you do is obviously figure out how much extra you have in a pattern that you want to get rid of. So you mark that, say 1 centimeter, just as an example. On this side, say you want to overlap the pattern by 1 centimeter. What you do is, obviously preparation is the same as in the previous case. You cut the pattern exactly the same, but in this case you will need to overlap. So you take here, you overlap the pattern. Your grain lines are stripped and you're moving everything exactly vertically, horizontally, you don't screw anything anywhere. So put your weights in, so this way your pattern has just become narrower. You put your ruler here and you say, okay, so this top of the pattern has to be aligned to this. What you do next is figure out how much extra you need to remove vertically. Say this 1 centimeter as well, about that much. So what you do, you overlap, so your part C overlaps and lowers down, and this way your center front becomes shorter. You mark it, you stabilize it. What you do after is quite simple. You basically collapse this part in to match the part C. So you make sure your bust point on the same level, you don't skew it anywhere, and then you overlap this extra that you want to remove at each pleat, like this. So your pleats will become smaller, like this. Each pleat will become smaller, and this will remove this extra width and extra length in your pattern. So that's quite easy and all done.